I'm one half of the account Our Unbound Life. We're the Carlsons, a family of three who decided to live tiny. We are 24 and 25 and moved into camper life full time in February of 2020. We are from the upper Midwest, the Minnesota-Wisconsin area, and we're currently in Florida, for now. We will share our story later on. Today I wanted to share the story of Amy and Doug, a full-time family who live in a fifth wheel. So I wanted to share other stories of families who are living a life that many consider to be different or alternative. And this newlywed couple live with their dog in Florida. They made this decision to live together tiny very early on. They got engaged and purchased their fifth wheel in May of 2019 and moved in together in February 2020 after getting married. So I asked them what drew them to tiny living, and home has a different meaning for everyone, but Amy put it wonderfully by saying, We spent a lot of time window shopping for houses and just never felt like we were home. And they did their fair share of research, looking into the cost of normal-sized homes, like the price per square, homes in and out of town, and different styles. They went to one final showing of a house, and they said, this will be the last one we look at. And what were the results? She said it was the creepiest one that they had ever seen, and it gave them the heebie-jeebies. What they mentioned next is something I related to when I was reading her account. They decided to go to an RV dealership the next weekend. They stepped into a fifth wheel and immediately said, this feels like home. And I know Mike and I can relate to this because before we left, we found an open house and we love looking at different homes, imagining what it would be like. But this ended up being a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot home. And we were walking around it and we were just overwhelmed by how much space there was. We just felt like this is too big. We went upstairs and we're like, this could be its own home itself, yet there's a whole nother layer underneath. And it was so shocking to us. Not that we're trying to make any jabs at a regular home, because there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for us personally, it wasn't the right move. So it's comforting to hear other people resonate the same feelings that we have. So what motivated Amy and Doug to tiny living? Well, Amy said that they're guided by motivation to live life more intentionally. So that's through their faith, nutrition, marriage, finances, and a life full of overabundance was not appealing. She said, tiny living seemed to be the missing puzzle piece. And she works as a traveling physical therapist and would daydream about traveling without the hassle of packing and unpacking. And she said for Doug, this Idaho boy loves adventure and was always game. He thankfully found a wife willing to back him up in this lifestyle, which I have to say, it's so nice to have a spouse that's really interested in the lifestyle. So their rig is named Petunia, and it's a used but pretty much new fifth wheel that they purchased off of RV Trader. Their specific rig is a Columbus Palomino 2018 383 FB and Forest River. They did their due diligence in shopping, going to RV shows, checking out dealerships, and scouring the internet. What helped them in the buying process? Amy mentioned that she is a shark negotiator as a contract buyer, so this helped. Now, I had to look up the definition of shark negotiator, but when negotiating, the shark's basic nature is to take over or trade off. Their primary goal is to beat their counterparts at all costs, but if the shark's efforts to win are thwarted, they will resort to a more friendly trade-off strategy. So, I was telling Mike that next time that we need to negotiate for anything, we need to bring Amy with us. It took them a month to buy once they finally made the decision and they knew that that's what they wanted to do. And their thought process while buying one, excitement, disbelief, and just thrilled for adventure. And I know I can relate to that too, because it's really intense trying to buy something that you know is going to be your home, and you don't know how long you're going to be in it, but you want to make sure that you're making a good financial decision, but you're also making sure that it's something you're going to love and enjoy, because when you walk into something, you want to feel like you're home and not just feel like I'm just doing this because, and you can't think of it. You want to know when you're in there. So Amy said that they acquired their tiny home by stating, "Our whole story is full of God's grace and timing. We bought a fifth wheel without knowing how we would move it, where we would move it to, or how to even empty a black tank. The buyer was out of state, but his fifth wheel was located right around the corner. Doug was also in his lease for a home until October, and we pulled the trigger to buy the RV in May. The owner of the RV owned a Tampa-based business and allowed us to store Petunia there rent-free for 5 months. Not only that, but he also gave us the entry code to the lot so we could visit and work on projects whenever we wanted. We ended up officially getting the keys and title in hand the 1 week that Doug's parents were in town from Idaho for our not-so-surprise engagement weekend." Now, I really appreciate that because the surprise engagements, I feel like we women do have a little sense for these things. Okay, so now I want to move on to the financial aspect. This family, they are big fans of Dave Ramsey, and I cheered when I read this because we are too. And they also enjoy Financial Peace University, which if you don't know what that is, please look that up. Their goal with tiny living was to be debt-free. While they do have a meager payment for their tiny home, their SUV is almost paid off. So I asked Amy, how do you support this tiny lifestyle? And she said, "To be honest, the main way we support our family right now is by living very frugally. Since getting married and soon after having COVID closures, neither of us are technically working full-time in the traditional sense." So Amy said that she owns her own business, she's a doctor of physical therapy, and she sees patients in person on a part-time basis in her local area and is able to meet with her patients on a part-time basis. She said that Doug is a Navy vet by heart and a recruiter by trade. Alongside their tiny living lifestyle of freedom, in all senses of the word, he has always wanted to own and run his own business. During the COVID pandemic, God has provided us with multiple business ventures for him, but right now he is mostly working as a business development and recruiting company that he just started. So he helps to connect businesses that have needs with employees who can appropriately fill that need. And in addition, he started a side gig as a financial advisor for life insurance and investments. So one thing that Mike and I have realized with this lifestyle is that working part-time or, doing what you really love is important because you generally are living frugally. And just, we met a family, they actually are on YouTube. They live in a giant Titanic bus, and they said, you can't live like you're on vacation when you're on the road. You have to live, very, very frugally, in the sense that they ate at Walmart. You go to the deli or you go get some groceries there, and you just have to really limit yourself. You're not on vacation every day. You can't just go out to dinner at a restaurant, especially if you have children or you're trying to live within a specific budget. So that was one thing I really appreciated, meeting other families. So I asked Amy, is this tiny living a permanent thing for them? And she said, for right now, they are parked in a quaint place in Florida and are taking the lifestyle day by day. Though they do not have any intentions to upsize their life anytime soon, they do want to do more traveling once they have a truck that will be able to tow their beautiful rig Petunia. I asked her, what's your favorite part of your journey so far? And she said, honestly, this has been such a unique journey. We went from being blushing newlyweds to almost immediately being ordered to be quarantined due to COVID. So they've been quarantined together 24/7 in a 42-foot fifth wheel with their dog. She said, it's been amazing to get thrown into the deep end of tiny living and still wake up each day loving it and wanting more. Our favorite part is with each day becoming more and more intentional with how we live. It not only affected how we have had to downsize, but how we shop, how we plan meals, activities, and other things. So it's really all-encompassing when you live that tiny lifestyle. That's what Mike and I have come to learn, and it's really an interesting but beautiful realization. If you've ever grown up, like Mike and I kind of grew up, not poor, but we didn't have a lot. And so I found as an adult, if I could go to Costco and get bulk items, I was going to do that. If I could go to Aldi and get a good deal and buy a lot of produce, I was going to do that. And living in a camper has been a huge eye-opener to living just with what you need, not overdoing it and having this excess amount. So tiny living is really, it changes you in a lot of ways that you don't even realize. And I asked her, what is their favorite part of tiny living? Being able to take their home wherever they go. It's, you're on the move, you get to do whatever you want, go wherever you want. You really have a different kind of freedom. And I asked her if she had any advice for folks interested in this lifestyle. And Amy said, do not get sucked into the black hole of YouTube. Think of what your main objective is for this living. If you are only doing it for the sole purpose of saying you live tiny, run the other way. This lifestyle is not a walk in the park. Do your research, ask questions, find other families on Instagram, groups on Facebook, and even consider renting one from a company to give it a trial run. And she says, for this lifestyle to pay off, it has to be something that you're willing to ride out the deprecation. For us, we prayed a lot. Ultimately, this is what is right for us, and we couldn't be happier. So I want to thank you, Amy and Doug, and your sweet pup, Abby, for allowing us to share your story. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and being able to share your story. The tiny lifestyle is not for everyone, but if you're willing to give it a go, it's not something that you have to do permanently or forever. It's a really unique experience and something that even if you just do it for a month or a year, I think it can really help you grow and get to know yourself better because, as I mentioned before, it's about not having excess. So you really have to figure different things out for, shopping, what's really important for you to hang on to, clothing, and, you kind of are bordering on the minimalist lifestyle and also leaving a tinier footprint on the earth. So it has a lot of things that it helps you to do as an individual. So thank you, Amy and Doug, again for letting me share your story. And if you're interested in having your story shared on my podcast, feel free to message me. My Instagram is @OurUnboundLife. And I will send you the questionnaire to fill out, and then I will share your story on here. So thank you, everyone. Take care and keep living that unbound life.